All right, welcome to Ball and Chain Podcast. I am Mox Born Again. I have with me, as always, it's my angel.
Hello.
Hello, hello, hello. It's episode 226. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the stream. Those of you watching on Facebook Live, over on our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/72DPI online, or if you're checking us out in the future on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/72DPI online.
Seeing us from the future.
You're seeing us in the future. What's the weather like? Tell us what the weather's like. Quick. Ready, go.
Yeah.
Oh, sad face. Oh, and we're also streaming to Mixer. So those of you who are, if you're watching us on, or if you're on an Xbox One, or I think it's just Xbox One. I don't think Xbox 360 has it. I'm pretty sure they don't. You can watch us there. So we really appreciate you guys watching. We're the show all about video games, movies, TV shows, board games, all sorts of fun, all sorts of fun stuff. You're kind of off the screen a little bit.
I slide. I roll.
I keep pulling you. There we go. All right. Yeah, so if you could do me a huge favor, if you could do us a huge favor, head over to our YouTube channel, like I said, youtube.com/72DPI online. Get subscribed, leave us a comment, share the channel, do everything that tells everybody that we're out here having some fun, and maybe you'll have some fun along the way. We got a lot to talk about. I didn't print out an outline, but we've kind of got it all pulled up on screen, so hopefully it'll come together. So we took a week off, got some gaming in, and some much needed housework. Oh dear Lord, the winter has not been good to the outside of the house.
Yeah.
The one gutter on the front's coming. Did you see the gutter on the garage?
No.
Yeah, it's kind of fallen off. It's like separated, so that's gonna require some additional work. But we got a whole bunch of yard work done to the front of the house,
so that at least people look at our house and go, "Oh, okay,
sweet." It's presentable. People aren't calling the city, on us to say, "Hey, these guys are, living in terrible conditions. You should probably take their children away."
Oh my goodness, I don't think that was going to be the case from a couple dandelions, but anyway.
Hey, it could be the case. You never know. There's some psychopaths out there. So we got a lot to talk about. Like I said, we're going to talk a little bit about Boss Keys closing, a couple tidbits on that. We've got new video games that are coming up in the next 2 weeks that we're excited about, and then we also have the patch 4.2 patch notes. 4.2 patch notes for Fortnite, and a little bit of Season 4 goodness to kind of get into. And then after that, we'll go into our spoiler discussion about Fear the Walking Dead and Westworld. But, of course, we will warn you ahead of time, so don't worry. We're not going to spoil anything for anybody. Unless
you want it to be.
Unless you want it to be spoiled. There are some people out there. Some people don't want to spend the time watching the show and would rather watch us ramble on about it. That's great. You can also join in the chat. Like if you would like to join in the conversation, by all means, there's chat through Twitch, through Xbox, and then also through Facebook. So for those of you wanting to talk about whatever we're talking about, feel free. It'd be great. It's great. It's fine. All right, so let's start off with something that I'm sure you could care less about.
Yeah.
But I kind of have a soft spot in my heart because I played the original. I can't even remember what the name of the game is now. The Green Rabbit. I think it was Jazz. And I think maybe if you see it, Jack Rabbit. Yeah, Jazz. There we go. You don't remember this game?
No.
Really?
No.
Jazz the Jackrabbit.
No.
It was like a side-scrolling PC game.
I didn't have.
You had a PC.
I did have a PC. I wasn't allowed to have a whole lot of games, though.
Okay. Well, it was an old-school PC game created by Cliff Bleszinski, Cliffy B. Way back in the day, kind of got his foot in the door and kind of boosted him up to where he is today. Better known for games like Gears of War, that series, and all that stuff. A few years back, he spun off from Epic in the Gears of War franchise and created a new studio called Boss Key. Recently, they had one release called Lawbreakers, which was a 5-on-5 first-person shooter, kind of futuristic type of thing. Had a whole bunch of different game modes and stuff like that. It was a PS4 and PC exclusive. It got okay reviews, kind of like 7s and 8s and things like that. But unfortunately, the player base was its ultimate demise. It really didn't have a big following, and for like online shooters like that's what keeps people coming back. Is just is a solid game with different gameplay modes and things like that. So they are closing their doors, which is unfortunate. Cliff put out a really nice kind of closing announcement letter thing on Twitter, basically mentioning the past 4 years have been fantastic. We've been up. The team seemed really tight knit. It was a smaller team, obviously, just starting out. Had some really good talent, and he kind of shed some light on that. The nice thing about this is there was some news a couple weeks ago where Cliff kind of lashed out at Epic because his former employer, because they were poaching some of his designers from his team, and he kind of lashed out or whatever. And it's it's unfortunate that a team the size of Epic or a business the size of Epic has to do that. But all's fair in love and war, and if you're going to pay someone more money, then it's just business. But it's unfortunate that it ultimately ended up, I wouldn't say that directly ended up closing the doors, but the failing titles. One of the other things that they were working on more recently.
It works with like non-compete clauses.
That's a good question, because that actually kind of segues into what I was just going to talk about. Is their recent game that they were working on is called Radical Heights, and it's a battle royale game just like Fortnite, and Fortnite is owned by Epic. So I know for a fact that Cliff was on the team when they started designing and developing Fortnite forever ago.
And it's free.
Yeah, it's it's free to play. It's still in early access. It's like in a beta alpha. Well, probably more like a beta, not so much an alpha.
Obviously, it won't be closing now or they won't be releasing it now.
Yeah, they say that the servers will remain open for some time, but I mean, if someone's not paying the bills, I don't know how long they're going to stay open.
I don't know how that works,
but yeah. So it just kind of sucks. Hopefully those guys find work. I mean, obviously Epic's probably hiring, so maybe you guys go to Epic. That would be kind of sad face. So, and then so moving on to our upcoming games that we want to talk about that we're excited for. Is there any games that you're interested in on that list? There's like 500.
Right. May 25th is the Detroit Become Human, which we play. I think was the last podcast or the podcast before that?
Yeah, I think it was two
pretty
ago, 2 episodes ago.
Recently, we played the
demo
for that.
Yeah.
So, and that was really neat. I don't know if that would be more of a rent type. And it looked like there was quite a bit of replayability value to that, but at the same time, I don't know how long the game is. So
I think it's one of those games, and I think, and I don't say, like, we talked about this last week with God of War. With single-player games, I kind of shy away from purchasing them just because of the replayability. But I truly do believe between God of War and Detroit Become Human, those are 2 single-player games that you could probably purchase because it really shows off the power of that system.
Yeah,
like they're gorgeous. The combat in God of War is fantastic. So if you've got a couple friends over or whatever, you want to show off the fluidity of the game, and then like Detroit Become Human is just like an experience it's an experience on its own. You could almost make a whole series just playing the episodes of the game. Which I kind of would like to do is just record you playing it and the screen or whatever, and just the experience. Huge spoilers, obviously, because a game like that's what it stands on, is its story. So
right.
But yeah, those 2 games I think are definitely purchasable.
Right. The next one would be actually on the same day, Pixel Junk Monsters 2. Which that was if I'm remembering correctly, a downloadable game for the PlayStation 3.
Yep.
And and that was a lot of fun. I don't remember what you kind of call that game. Tower building?
Tower defense.
Tower defense, that's right. Different than other games that I had played, but it was a lot of fun. It was cute.
I mean, the sound, like, it had a very cute aesthetic. Like, it was like the menu system, the characters, the enemies, the towers, everything was well designed.
Yeah.
Like, everything just worked as far, like, graphically. You know, there's some games out there where, like, you know, like, the gameplay looks really good, but, like, the menu system and the UI system is just, like, something just doesn't quite match up right. This game is, like, from top to bottom, like, the graphic designers on the team are just like, knocked it out of the park. So
it was just, it was fun, easy to pick up, kind of cutesy, and you level up your little towers to kill the different
right,
different type of creatures. Was there a multiplayer?
I believe I believe the PS4 version, or was it PS4 or Vita, had a multiplayer. I don't remember.
know.
Well, I think there was a multiplayer aspect to it.
I feel like there was.
Yeah, there was, because there was a multiplayer couch co-op on PlayStation 4 or PlayStation 3, because you could, what we had set it to where, like, one person was constantly just upgrading towers, and the other person was, like, collecting coins and stuff like that.
As people were dying, right?
Yeah,
that's right. It's been so long since I played that game. I should go back and play it.
Right.
It was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. Maybe we'll go back and play that this week and kind of do like this day, like 2000. What that'd probably been like 2008, 2009.
I don't.
It was a while ago.
It was in this house, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was. Well, yeah. It was in this house. Was it?
Yes.
Okay. Because it was at the very beginning of PS4.
You know what? We have this thing called computers.
The internet. There's one here, one there. There's one in your hand. There's one down here.
Right. Multiple access points.
My computer in my mind is just not working. I know it was early on in the PlayStation's life cycle. While you're doing that.
Okay. It was released in January of 2008.
Okay. That's close. So, yeah, that's not too far off. That's exciting. So yeah, maybe we'll travel back. Maybe we'll travel back in time to.
We weren't here till November 2008. So.
Yeah, so maybe we'll travel back in time to 2008 and play some Pixel Junk, have some fun.
Yeah.
So we'll charge up our
pre-children days.
Yeah, that's when we could play like 50 hours of video games a week and not bat an eye.
We didn't have the condo. We didn't have a yard.
Right, we didn't have like, as long as the fridge was stocked, that was like the only chore you really had.
Before Gladys, we had one dog. We had we had to
Kira
work.
Was such a good dog then too. Well, even after that, it was kind of a bad statement. But Kira was such a good dog.
Yeah, so
you could neglect her and she would be like, "Oh,
that's terrible." That's terrible. It's just an easier time of life, and lots of video games got played.
Right, exactly. Yeah. The other game that's coming out this coming week, May 22nd, is State of Decay 2. This is a game that's going to be released day and date on the Game Pass, so I might have to spend $10 and rent this game for a month. But it's a 4-player co-op game in a zombie world where you're scavenging for food and resources and weapons and all sorts of good stuff while trying not to die. There's zombie hordes and stuff like that. It's super fun. So if you're interested, hit me up on Twitter or on Facebook or whatever, and you're interested in playing. We'll be doing some streaming on that game in the coming months, or in the coming month rather, starting next week. I think that's Tuesday. Yeah, I think it's Tuesday. What's that?
How quickly this month is.
Yeah, it's next Tuesday is the 22nd. So there will be a week left in May. And then
that's insane. And then we have summer vacation.
Then you have
summer vacation. All the children.
Yeah, you thought it was bad with just one. You will have two. You'll have to keep them both entertained.
Yes.
So, at least you can eventually see. I think it's better for you because you can just have the big one watch the little one, and you can go do whatever you want to do.
Yeah, because it works that way 100% of the time.
Yeah, just make sure there's no chairs or couches or anything.
Today I tried to have the 4-year-old watch the little ones.
That doesn't work very well. At least our big one is 7, and he can at least hold or catch.
He said he would. He said, I'll watch the little kids.
Oh God.
I said, "Hey, I'm tired. Can I close my eyes and take a nap, and you can watch the little kids?" He goes, "Yeah, I'll watch the little kids."
Yeah, I'll watch them.
Of course, he's like maybe this much taller than the 18-month-old. It was pretty funny. It was very cute.
Dear Lord.
Obviously, I was not. Okay, people on the internet, obviously, I'm not going to just take a nap and let the 4-year-old watch the 2 and 1-year-old. That's not going to happen. I was totally joking with
I
them.
do that. I'm just kidding. Don't call and take our kids. I promise we're good parents.
We just like to tease the bigger ones.
All right, so moving right along, Fortnite Season 4 has begun. We are in week 3.
Yes.
We've got a video coming out hopefully tomorrow. I'm finishing up some of the challenges. I'm going to start a challenge segment or video series on the channel where I go through all the challenges each week and show you guys how to, where to find the things and how to do the things and all that stuff. What's that?
Nothing.
What are you laughing about?
You just have way too many. You have so many different video.
I've got all.
That's like all you like. You just want to be like, okay, I'm just gonna. Yeah.
I've got all this creativity just eking out of my every orifice in my body. I don't know. Anyway, so so the patch 4.2 updates came out. We've got a new weapon. I'm super excited about it because I am not a big fan of the current burst rifle. We have a burst legendary assault rifle. There's an epic version and a legendary version. So you got a gold one and a purple one. So it's not going to come up very often, but when it does, it's going to be epic. And it fires 3 rounds. It does, where is it? It does 32 damage for the epic version. The gold legendary version does 33 damage. So that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's 99. If you hit all 3 bullets, that's someone's entire health minus 1 hit point, obviously.
Right.
So you will have to have a second trigger pull. That's way more powerful than the Halo 2 battle rifle. But uses medium ammo. It has the same fall off damage for assault rifles, which is fine because the assault rifle is pretty medium to long range. It can be found in loot crates, treasure chests, supply drops, and vending machines. So that's good. Vending machines is probably the easiest way to find it, since it is epic or legendary. The other thing that they're releasing with this update is a new item called apples. So what do apples do?
They give you health.
They're not poisonous? They don't put you to sleep?
At least not yet.
That would be hilarious if some of them were like green apples and they were poisonous or whatever. No, not so much. Okay. So they give you health. They grant 5 hit points up to 100. So
they're just a very little bit.
Just a little bit, but if you've got bandages and you get up to 75, then you only need a handful more to get up to 100, which is nice because bandages only max out at 75.
They're uncommon.
Right, they're uncommonly found in certain trees throughout the map. So I'm kind of curious because it says certain trees. If the trees are if the trees look the same, if you can see the apples in the tree, or you got to actually chop the tree down for them to spawn. The other question I have is, are they random trees, or are they always going to be the same trees?
When did this all happen?
It's going on now.
Okay.
It is released right now.
That's right, because there was a time outage last night at like 4 a.m. or this morning at 4 a.m. or something like that, right? Yeah.
Correct. So the other minor update is the impulse grenades have increased as far as drops by 5%. So you're going to see more of those, which is good because using those for offense tactics is a lot of fun. Not only using them for defensive things like knocking people off of buildings and things like that is fun, but throwing them straight at the ground and jumping so it catapults you forward, that's really cool. I don't know if you realize you could do that, but they don't do any damage, but they just bloop and just shoot you forward. The other thing that's changing as far as weapons are concerned that you're going to see quite a few people picking up is the suppressed machine gun. It's increased the damage by 3 across the common, uncommon, and rare, so you're getting more damage. Let's see here. The fallout, and then it's also getting nerfed as far as the range, so you're not going to be able to shoot nearly as far and get nearly as much damage. So that's a little on the side, but it's nice to have that extra couple points of damage. So especially at rare, at 22 hit points per bullet, that's not too shabby. The other thing that is getting changed is a huge nerf, in my opinion. This might be too much in my opinion. Is the trap damage. Originally was 125 hit points, so instant kill if you had no shield whatsoever. They're reducing it down to 75 points of damage. So yeah, I don't know if I really don't know if I care for that.
They
change.
Also reset it. It happens faster.
Right, so the resets 5 seconds instead of 6 seconds. So, I don't know. I think I would have rather if they're going to drop it down to 100. Because you think by the time people start setting traps and stuff like that, people have shields and stuff like that. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Maybe they'll bump it up. Remote explosives got a little bit of a bump as well. They're the damage radius and the throw distance have been increased, so you can throw them further and they explode bigger and they deal more damage, which is great because those things were pretty much useless because of how little damage they dealt and how much how wide of a blast radius they had. So okay, it's all good changes. All good changes should make the game more enjoyable for sure. So, you have anything else that you want to chit chat about? What do you think about the season 4 so far? Because you finally got some.
The first season I've actively played. I mean, I really hadn't played much Fortnite really before this.
We got our first victory in duos the other day.
Yeah, that was exciting.
Yep.
And I finally got to the first female character.
The skin
character. Yeah, so that was exciting for me too. But yeah, no, I like having the additional challenges.
Doesn't it make the game more fun?
Gives you something else to work towards, I guess.
I think the other nice thing that they've really capitalized on is if you play the game long enough, you'll earn V-Bucks to buy the next pass.
Right.
So you won't have to actually purchase. You won't have to spend real money on it. So if you play the game, play the game, you earn points to buy the next season pass and
assuming you don't blow them ahead of time.
Which I did. I totally did. I apologize.
So it's just one of us will be in the next season.
Oh, don't worry. I will get those V-Bucks back. So back off. What I had to buy the little worm dance thing. I have yet to use any of them, but it's still fun. Right. It's still fun to do.
Oh my goodness.
All right, guys. Well, that is the non-spoiler version of the show. If you want to continue past, we are going to start talking about spoilers for Fear the Walking Dead and Westworld for the last couple episodes. So this is your opportunity to skadoose if you do not want to be spoiled. Make sure you head over to youtube.com/72DPI online. Get subscribed. Leave us a comment. Also, share the video, share the channel with people so that people know where we are and we're making fun stuff. Yep. Fun stuff. So, all right. I am officially putting on the spoiler tag. So you have clearly been warned. Everyone dies in all the episodes. Ready, go.
Yeah.
What do you want to talk about first? You want to go Westworld, or do you want to talk about?
I guess we'll go
Fear?
Westworld since that's the order we've been watching them in.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Because they pushed Talking Dead to after the Badlands show. So now there's an hour break between the two.
I really
want. Me.
I think I say this almost every episode. I really want to watch Enter the Badlands, but I don't have any clue as to what's going on.
Yeah.
I wonder.
I have no interest. I honestly had no interest in that show.
Like the
I know you watched the first season. I think
the first season was really fun, and it was the choreography and the fighting sequences were amazing. But yeah, so we're gonna talk Westworld first. So episode 3.
That's right. We got to go back 2 weeks here.
Yeah, because we didn't record last week, so we're gonna talk about a little bit.
Get really confusing because
A,
time jumps, and B, now we're trying to discuss 2 episodes with time jumps at the same time, and yeah. All
right. So
episode 3 started out with a different park.
Yeah.
That was interesting.
Yeah.
We started out with different characters we'd never seen before in a different park.
Yep, kind of like a jungle-esque
They were
savannah.
basically hunting in India, essentially, like hunting tigers.
They had some elephants. There we go. God, I couldn't say elephant for a second there.
Yeah,
wow.
I noticed that.
Holy cow.
And we see basically just an intro to these two characters.
Very short intro for one of them.
Right. Obviously, it's the current time to where our part, the Westworld park and characters are starting to derail. Two humans and are interacting. We're assuming they're humans, at least at this point, are interacting, meeting, and pursuing a relationship. I'll just put it that way.
To put it lightly, they are pursuing a relationship, physical relationship.
Right. So I'll just put it that way. The girl gets really hardcore about it, though. She's like, okay, well, let's just make sure we're human, because you could be a host saying you're not.
Right. She's
and
very
she pulls
suspect.
out a gun. She's like, I'm going to pull this gun and shoot you, and you're not going to die if you're a human.
Right. It'll just sting a little bit. And
right.
she shoots
She
him.
does. I mean, at least it looks basically if you were to get shot at close range with a paintball gun.
Not even close range, just get shot with a paintball. It's just left
right.
a welt.
Right. So, needless to say, they were both human.
Yeah.
Although he didn't shoot her.
No, he just kind of assumed. He's like, all right, I'm fine with it. Let's go. Let's do this.
Right. So, jump to the next day, and they start out on their expedition, and they get to like this encampment where they are supposed to be kind of, I guess, set up to watch for the tigers.
Right.
And there's normally, and both of these people have apparently been on this trip many, many times and are very familiar with the parks. And
the female notices that something's not quite right.
Well, that there's normally people at this camp.
Right. Yeah, normally hosts, there's normally other guests, but
right.
nobody.
Needless to say, they walk into one of the tents and everybody's dead.
Not hosts, like humans are dead, like blood splattered everywhere.
Right, and that's one of the things is the man. He says, well, maybe this is a change in the storyline. That's interesting.
Right.
And she notices, no, these people were on the train with me in here. These aren't hosts.
Yeah, these aren't hosts.
People.
These are guests.
And they turn around and there is one of the hosts with a gun and
I think
shoots her.
No, doesn't shoot him.
That's right. Shoots him. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Shoots him. She manages to run away, coming face to face with the Bengal tiger.
She outruns the tiger uphill, which is kind of
weird.
Yeah, a little. Yeah. I mean, she did get off a couple shots, either one or two shots of her shotgun.
She got him in the side, I think.
Yeah, maybe she injured it or
she did injure it.
So.
But she comes to a cliff with a river and clearly ran outside the park's boundaries. You see kind of
the laser
little pylon type things, and I assume that they should stop the hosts from exiting. I would think kind of it should be like. It seems to me like it looks like it would be like an electric fence type thing that stops them from coming. Right. Needless to say,
it doesn't.
It doesn't. He crosses, and they both end up falling down this cliff into like a river or some kind of a body of water. Jump back a few episodes and we have actually seen the tiger wash up. One of those rescue parties had found the tiger and said that, they don't typically leave their areas.
Right.
So we had kind of had a foreshadowing to this event. Although it was in the future, so it's not. I don't know if you really call it a foreshadowing.
Side shadowing.
Right. Anyhow, I forget where I was going with that. So that was kind of our intro to those characters. This lady.
Which she makes it.
She does.
She survives.
We see her end up in Westworld, I think in the next episode. I think that was the end of what we really saw with her in that particular episode.
Right.
I'm trying to think about what else occurred in that episode. Oh, the big battle with the
what you call it, the
Confederados, I think is what they were calling them.
Yeah, the soldiers and the humans.
Dolores leads them into another camp, and that's where I was having a little trouble understanding all of the politics she's trying to play here, because she's trying to
get a revolution started, but she
she's getting a lot of the hosts killed.
Yeah, she sacrificed and betrayed a couple people along the way.
And she even says not all of us are meant to make it.
Right. It's funny the way she words things when she's talking about people joining her or whatever. She, everyone's got a part to play. Everyone will, have their day or whatever or something. She's very vague with it and basically meaning I'm going to use you until I don't need you anymore. Mm-hmm. And that might mean you're going to die, and I'm going to, I'm putting you up as a shield or whatever. And that's exactly what she does to these people. Well,
and while this is going on, prior to the battle at this fort that they come to, we see a bit of Bernard, how Bernard and the Delos Corporation lady get split up. Mm-hmm. And they do find Abernathy because they've been on the hunt for Abernathy.
Yeah,
she's not really telling him why. Which Abernathy, if you don't recall, is Dolores's dad.
Right. In one of the stories.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but he was starting to have some trouble, and they decommissioned him and moved him to cold storage. And obviously, we saw in one of the previous episodes last season, they thawed all of the prior hosts and let them out. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, they basically meet up with him. Some stuff goes down. They reprogram Simon from Walking Dead's character.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's, whew.
That was a very interesting scene. And it's funny to see him play in this, too. He's a very similar character. But at any rate...
Well, they was that this episode that they reprogram him? That Bernard reprogrammed him? And then...
because he ends up with Abernathy, which they get captured by the rest of the Confederados and
that's right, because
taken to this fort.
Yeah, because Bernard pulled out his little screen tablet thing. He's like, we're going to make you the most righteous, loving person in the world. And you see him drag down these two columns that were probably evil and degenerate, and then raise virtuous and strength or whatever. He just walked back to where all those captives were.
Because he was one of the people holding him captive.
Yeah. And he just murdered all the bad guys and then let them free.
That was pretty cool. Yeah, so obviously these hosts are not all awake. They're still running under a program of sorts, or even Ford. He changed the program. He was writing a new story, and I think a lot of this is still the new narrative that he was writing.
Right. Well, we know he's got the technology for the hosts to learn. I mean, for Bernard's sake, take Bernard for instance, he's
awake.
He's definitely awake and well aware of what's going around him, and he's even conscious of I need to keep my being secret, because if they were to find out that I wasn't human, I'd be dead. So yeah, so this could and I was joking around thinking that for all we know, what's Anthony Hopkins' character's name?
Oh, Ford.
He could still be alive. What if Ford was that we saw shot by?
We'll get back to that.
Yeah, we'll get back to that. So, okay, sorry. Go ahead. I'm jumping ahead. Ah.
You're fine. I don't have to be the only one giving all the synopsis. You can.
No, you're fine. You're fine. You're better. You're much better at. I am horrible with this series. The jumping around is really hard for me to keep a straight line of what's happening.
Right.
And we're spanning over 2 episodes. So what else happened?
So essentially, okay. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
Want me to jump back into
it? Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So Dolores again sets up at this fort to defeat. She shows him the gun of the humans,
right?
Because obviously in Westworld they didn't have modern technology,
right?
And so they're well, they're going to be coming after us. This many, we need to hold up at this fort, and we're going to set up nitro explosives around here.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, then she sees Bernard and her father Abernathy, who had gotten taken captive.
Right.
Her dad's clearly sick, and I think as is Bernard, but she lets them keep Bernard, which, given their relationship, you would think she would have given him preferential treatment.
Right.
But she does keep her dad back into a medical wing. I mean, it's still like a house, but and he seems to be awake, because he had his mind wiped when they put him in cold storage, and
he seems to be going back and forth though.
And that's something that I think was it Bernard that came in. Somebody had come in and they said he's jumping between scripts, or he's jumping between lives, basically.
I think that was Bernard. I think so.
And so yeah, because he looks at her and says, Dolores, and I need to get to my train. Meanwhile, Bernard is there. He taps into Abernathy's head to find out, what is Delos wanting with him. And there's like this big encrypted file with not really even necessarily code. It's like a whole other language.
Right. Bernard seems familiar with it, but not, doesn't know it.
What exactly it means.
Right.
So at this point, the big battle ensues. And the humans do manage to come in and get Abernathy out of that building, at which point Dolores sees this is happening and abandons her post.
Right.
And the entire battle, which she started.
Right. Then she locks the door. She closes the door and locks the Civil War guys, whatever, the soldiers outside.
Right. Getting a lot of them killed.
Right.
The ones that did not get killed after all this battle has happened, she goes back to Teddy and says, "There's no need for them to stay alive. Go ahead and kill them."
Right. This was a huge test for Teddy.
Right.
He failed miserably.
And meanwhile, she's hiding around the corner, and he lets him go.
Yeah.
And she sees it, and so I don't know. Obviously, we've seen a forward jump of Teddy.
Oh God! I think I just made a connection. So that the guys that they let go in this episode are the same guys that are from the next episode that are with the Man in Black, right? Got it. See?
Yep.
You saw the light bulb just go off. Like, oh God.
They are.
That's 2 weeks worth of show going.
So yeah, if Teddy had not let them go, then the next episode would have been kind of irrelevant, or at least some of it.
Yeah, it would have been a little bit. It would have went differently for sure.
Yes.
Anyway. Continuing on.
Actually, I forgot that happened in that episode. Okay. Anyhow, where were we?
You see.
Oh, Teddy let him go.
Yep.
We do see a flash forward though of Teddy in the lake, drowned. So whether or not that has anything to do with Dolores' doing.
Right.
Bernard, though, at that point said, I did, this is my fault, or I did this. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out, what Dolores does with Teddy after she finds out that he didn't take her orders.
Right.
So that kind of, I think.
Don't we end with Bernard getting drug off by what's her name? Not the sharpshooter, but the
Clementine.
Clementine, yeah.
I don't remember if that was in this episode or the prior episode.
I think he gets.
Or that mean the next episode.
I think he gets captured, but Is
that how they lose? Somewhere along the line, they have to lose Abernathy again. Dolores kills him, right? No, Dolores doesn't get him back. Dolores is going after him.
Yeah, Dolores leaves going after him. They still have him
at this point.
Yeah.
They eventually lose him. In the flash forward, we find out that they lost him, and then they say he keeps slipping through our fingers.
Right.
Okay.
So that was episode 3.
Right.
Episode 4.
We got a lot of information.
Yeah.
The riddle of the Sphinx. We get a lot of information about the true meaning of what's going on here. The meaning behind this place, because Dolores even says, I know what this place really is. Now, whether she's referring to something that Ford's doing on the side, or she's referring to what the Delos Corporation is doing here, I guess we don't know that really. Do you want to start, or do you want me to start?
I think, from what I remember.
Do you want me to do it then?
Doesn't it start off with Bernard getting drugged into the cave and meeting up with the one chick that we've lost?
That does happen, yeah.
That's not where they begin? That doesn't work?
I don't remember if that's exactly where it begins, but yeah, that's
Okay, well, we're going to start there then, because that's about the only thing I remember.
Yeah.
That's so horrible. I'm sorry. Like,
no, that's fine.
Elsie. So yeah, so Bernard, so Clementine drags Bernard up to this cave, and they're by themselves.
Gives him a gun.
She drops a rifle for him and just walks away. He's got, I think his hands are bound, and he basically gets up and like grabs the gun and walks into the cave or whatever, and there's Elsie.
Right. We've
just
not seen her
chained.
Since she was starting to kind of figure some things out last season.
Right. Clearly she knows
too close to the truth.
Yeah, clearly she knows who Bernard is, like, because she doesn't trust him whatsoever, and
she doesn't know that what he is.
Really?
He's the one who kidnapped her. That's why she doesn't trust him.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I mean, she didn't until this episode.
Right. And so, well, this episode, she does find out what he is or whatever.
Which, again, this becomes really confusing. We have some more time shifting, and you're not really sure if we're time shifting.
Right. So that whole scene, that whole thing kind of ensues or whatever, basically ending with Bernard needing more of the chemical or whatever.
Cortical fluid.
Yeah, it basically ends with him needing that. And then he has like some type of flashback or forward or memory or distant memory, or maybe it's not even a memory, maybe it's just a program file that Ford gave him that tells him, she's basically like, well, you're gonna die because there's no facilities anywhere around here. And he's like, oh no, we're near one. There's one right here. I've been here. I blah blah blah. And eventually they find like this secret entrance or whatever. And then they go down the elevator, and she fixes him up, and there's like these faceless guys that we've seen last episode or 2 episodes ago.
Couple episodes.
Yeah, they're working on something. They're working on something mysterious, and there's a bunch of dead bodies.
There's only one faceless guy there, and Elsie kills him.
Well, no. There's other faceless guys
that
there.
were dead.
Yeah, they're dead. Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, they're dead ones. But the one faceless, there's another one that's kind of standing. He's just standing there, very
so creepy.
But like, and that's the thing. Like, he's very intimidating, and Bernard's like, he's not gonna hurt us. Don't do it. And like, she points a gun at him. He's like literally telling her, you're being aggressive. Stop. And she just blows its head off.
Yeah.
So, we do see.
Does she blow its head off?
Yeah, she shoots it in the head.
I thought it attacked her too fast, and I thought Bernard saved her.
I don't remember now. I thought she shot and killed it.
I think Bernard saved her, honestly.
So?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll have to go back and watch.
Yep.
But we see there's we see the new different, you call them light bulbs for their brains or whatever in that facility.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Okay, so all the while there's kind of what you've discussed so far. There's been blips in between, and we're seeing flashbacks of William.
Right.
Back
young William.
Right. And his father-in-law.
Correct.
Who was the owner of the Delos Corporation. He was the one who he talked him into, or William talked him into investing in Westworld. Saying this is going to become the future.
Right. This is going to be reality.
Right. Which that was a couple episodes ago. And it's very, to me, it almost feels like the bunker in Lost.
Oh, the hatch?
Right. Because it seems like he's doing the same thing over and over. We're seeing a little.
I could see that.
We're seeing very close up. It just reminded me of the way it was filmed. There's like an old timey music in the background, and spinning on a record player. And you see somebody exercising and pouring a drink and washing his face and doing all these things, and it feels very much like he's doing this day after day after day kind of thing, which he is. And it is William's father-in-law. The little holographic lady comes on the window and says, "Hey, you have a visitor," and he says, "Oh, it's about time." So William comes in with a bottle of, is it whiskey or scotch, something like that. They sit down, have a drink, and have a conversation, and you get the feeling that this isn't all what it seems.
Right. Will seems very relaxed and like he's done this before, and the father-in-law is like,
get me out of here.
Get me out of here.
I haven't seen you in forever.
Exactly. Like
He says that.
He's very anxious.
Right. He says, I haven't seen you in forever. Or it's been a long time. And he says, well, I have a series of questions I need to ask you to get a baseline. Baseline for what? So he starts asking questions and he's answering. I mean, you can tell he's shaken. The very first clip, he's pouring himself cream in his coffee, and he spills some. His hand's shaking, and there's just little hints that something's not quite right with him.
Right.
The hand shaking immediately reminded me of Bernard with his hand shaking.
Yeah.
But there's something not quite right, and William hands him over a slip of paper, and that's really all you see from that first clip.
Yeah, that's all you see.
It stops there, and it goes back to what Bernard and Elsie are doing with this investigation into this other lab.
Secret hatch lab thing. Which
goes into another scenario again with William and the father-in-law, and it's the exact same thing happening again. You're like, okay, now I know something is not right. This time, he doesn't spill the milk, but his hand's still shaking a little bit.
Right.
But the exact same conversation happens, and I had even said the first time, I said, I bet you they've had this conversation before. He doesn't remember it, and it's the script of what happened.
It was on the piece of paper he handed him the last one.
And it all falls through the same way, and he opens it up, and you do see the script.
Right.
And then the conversation obviously changes, and the dad says, "So I didn't make it, did I?"
Right.
So, thinking back to a couple episodes ago, it's the retirement of the stepfather and William taking over the corporation, and you do hear the father-in-law coughing quite a bit. So, I'm thinking, okay, he's got lung cancer, or he's got, some kind of disease here.
Something.
Right. So clearly he'd been ill. And in this conversation, he even says, this is like the worst joke ever. Like, here I defunded the research to cure this disease 10 years before I contracted it and apparently have died of it.
Right.
So you do get the feeling and the understanding that this guy was probably not the most ethical or wonderful person in the world. He's kind of a sleaze and just
very shady.
Generally looks after his own doesn't really care about anybody else or anything else. So, but he's like, okay, well, what about my wife? And you find out that she passed away, and he's clearly kind of shaken up by it. But he says that he's got your daughter's doing well. You've got a granddaughter and all this. And he says, okay, well, great. When can I get out of here? And he's like, sorry, but you're not quite ready to go. He exits and he says to terminate, which you see the fact that the room that he's in is within a greater room, and it's all
it's one of those glass. It's one of those
like
glass
stubble.
chambers that you've seen in Westworld, like
right.
in the facility portion of it, where they're
able to watch everything
that
he's doing.
Exactly.
And they push terminate, and the whole thing just goes up in flames.
But you think after terminating so many times, like, man, wouldn't that get expensive? Like buying all that new furniture all over again. Why can't you just like turn off the air or something? Like suffocate the guy? Like that scene would be. I mean, you might be able to go a little bit. I mean, maybe they wouldn't have run into like funding issues.
And they stop him when they cease his actions. He freezes.
Oh,
he
yeah.
was doing something. He was doing something, and he just froze. So why can't you just freeze him and turn him off? Like,
right.
Why do you have to go through the whole thing?
Drop him in a blender or something.
Yeah, it was very strange.
And is there nothing part of his body that is reusable? Like,
well, and my other thing is to it though is when they're introducing this guy, when they build a new version of him, right? Because we've been through. Clearly, this is happening. We're building new versions of him.
Right.
When they're introducing him into this habitat, do they have to bring it in there and make it look like he's never lived there before? Make it smell like he's
Right. Oh, that's true.
I don't know. Maybe there's something to be said about maybe he would realize he'd been there before, and I don't know. If they find a stray hair of his, he's like, wait a second. But then again, is he that going to be that observant? I don't know. So again, we're going back into Elsie and Bernard, and they are now outside that room.
Right.
They're outside a door.
Well, we don't know that.
We don't know that. They're outside a door. The door is locked. They hear banging from in the inside, and Elsie's standing there with a gun. And meanwhile, we've been seeing these flashes, like you said, with Bernard. He kind of saw himself go to the secret chamber and open it to get into this lab in the first place. And she even says, your brain is jumping between memories.
Right.
So because he's not human, he's living at he's seeing them.
Right.
As if he's really right there.
Right.
And with that knowledge in mind, he's there with Elsie and he's telling her, don't open the door. Don't open the door. And she's not listening. And he says, I'm not really here right now. This is, maybe this is a memory. Maybe this is,
right.
So
that's a
was like
fuck.
Mind blowing.
Yeah, you're like,
right
so
there.
Kind of like Sixth Sense-esque.
Yes.
We're
yes.
like, so how long has he been here?
Right. And so he went there with Elsie. So now he's back there by himself again.
And
then where did Elsie go?
Yeah.
What happened to Elsie now that he's back here and alone? But so many questions.
But once they get into the actual facility, there's another jump sequence where they go, it must be way in the future because
he's new. He's the other actor,
right? So he's the man in black, entering the same facility or whatever. And like it immediately triggers the father-in-law is like, wow, you look like shit. Like that. Like
conversation changed completely.
Right. And like the man in black is like, he's a complete dick to the guy. Like the whole conversation went south like way quicker or whatever. Like
right. He told him immediately he wasn't getting out. That wife is dead. Daughter committed suicide.
Yep.
You're not getting out of here because
this was it's a failed experiment.
Right. We've been doing this for so many years. You wouldn't even want to know how long, and maybe people just aren't meant to live forever.
Right. I think he said people like you aren't meant to live forever.
Maybe.
I don't remember. But so then
he said you were a crooked businessman. You were.
Yeah. So like on his way out, the guy.
People liked you better in death. Basically, is what he said.
Exactly. It's like this dude was a complete ass to his father-in-law. But anyway, on his way out, the one technician was like, "So should we terminate?" And the guy's like, "Nah, let him go for a little bit.
Yeah, let's see what happens.
Let's see what happens." And so like the father-in-law is just literally breaking down, throwing stuff, and just destroying the inside of this apartment.
Well, and the reason they're terminating, I don't think we went into this yet. The reason they're terminating is these part human, part android, because there is something to them that is human. They're not quite our Westworld robots that have been around for, Dolores has been around for quite some time. She was one of our original, and she was around when William was young, and she's still around. So obviously what they're creating is different from our Westworld androids.
Yeah, they're almost like they're born. They're like organisms that.
Well, it's a part human, part android. And like I said, the little part of their brain that we've seen that, like I said, looks like a light bulb. Was a different color than the one we saw when they opened up the android's head.
Right.
So part of me is wondering, is there not a DNA component to that, something that's actually living? We've also seen that they're taking the guests, they're cataloging the guests' DNA, and their memories and their experiences.
Right.
So yeah, does it not have to do with some of that? But what do you say? This is number 100 and attempt 147, 153. It's something
ridiculous. Yeah.
So they've attempted this guy a lot of times, and they keep getting further and further. I think this was 35 days, and then they start to break down. Something's just not quite right. He said it's like their mind starts to reject itself.
Yeah, start to plateau, I think was what they said. So
Yeah.
you've got this, awesome streak of learning and, recognition and all that stuff and conversation and then just plateaus and then it just starts to degrade.
It says your mind basically rejects reality.
Right.
And rejects itself. Kind of like an organ being.
Well, and you see that, like, not only with, like, the guy with the father-in-law, like, shaking and stuff like that, but, like, his speech becomes, like, he can't finish words or finish sentences or whatever, and you just, yeah.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to live like that. You wouldn't want to leave him living like that. It's just, ugh. So leaving him in there to just degrade just seems a horrible thing to do,
right,
to me. And so we see that flashing back to then
Elsie and
Bernard entering this chamber.
Pitch black.
Well, it's red.
Well, yeah, pitch black with like red like lights that like
You're
the
red's
warning
never
like,
good.
like red warning lights like I think if anything like Jurassic Park has like really kind of put this into our minds, like red lights are bad. Like you don't want to be anywhere near red lights.
Yeah.
And dark, especially when there's like scientific experiments going on and
the room's dark and it's only the red light.
Yeah, you have like a double barrel shotgun with limited ammunition, which you've already spent several shells on. But they get closer to the chamber and Elsie's like, "Oh my God, there's somebody in here!" And she goes and opens the door.
Yeah, you do see the scientist that was kind of that asked if they should terminate. You do see that he's dead.
Yeah, super dead. So, if this is because I feel like I need to go back and watch because now I'm kind of curious if you're right. If Bernard was never there with Elsie,
he had to have been there at some point with Elsie.
No, I mean,
but for him to have the memory of it.
But I'm talking about like right now, like what we were seeing.
Yeah, what we're watching isn't.
I want to see if because like in The Sixth Sense, you don't realize that the main character is dead
until the end
because the conversation is always one-sided. Mm-hmm. And I'm kind of curious if that's similar. If what Bernard's saying to Elsie, if she doesn't respond or doesn't react to him,
how much of it is future Bernard being there by himself or
right
watching?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's so strange.
Yeah.
It's very well done though, and it's very thought provoking. As you can tell, it has you constantly thinking and rethinking. Anyway, needless to say, Mr. Delos is still in there, crazy as all get out. Tries to attack him, and they basically have to kill him.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, they manage to get out and terminate him. But they see what's going on. Bernard tells Elsie who it is, and she says, "Well, wait, hasn't he been dead for years?"
Mm-hmm.
And
please tell me that was a human or an android.
Yeah, and Bernard's response is, "I think it's both, like a little bit of both." So
a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B.
Needless to say, they find a control unit for another one of those. Bernard tells Elsie that he thinks he's been sent here before by Ford, or he knows he has. He's having these flashbacks. He doesn't tell her that because we do see a flashback of him being there and giving the order to kill all the humans that were there. So he's been there probably fairly recently, and caused all the destruction that we're seeing in there. Because we know it couldn't have been too long ago that the man in black was there talking to father-in-law. And obviously the main lab would have been normal at that point.
Right.
So it was after that then Bernard went in, had everybody killed.
Right.
But yes, they had them print another control unit for somebody else. He does tell Elsie that, and he's pocketed it.
Mm-hmm.
I think in a flashback. Unless that is flash forward. Unless he's there with Elsie, and we know he's now there again without Elsie.
Right.
Maybe he's pocket. That's where it gets really confusing.
Right.
Needless to say, we know he's got this little this little thing that we think is a control unit to control another partial human, partial android. For who, we don't know. We don't know if it could be Bernard for himself, because he was trying to create another Arnold.
This is true.
It could be Ford. As you've mentioned, maybe Ford's not really dead.
Or maybe Ford is, well, because I'm trying to think, because they did mention, I can't remember if we've talked about it already, that these half human, half android these characters, or these people, only live for like 35, a little over a month.
Maybe all the versions of Ford, maybe Ford really died a long time ago, and all of these are
exactly like
copies of him. What
if that was the case? I mean, and like that would be a huge prerogative for Bernard to try and keep him going.
Yeah.
Is how many of these people are android? I mean, you think which ones are humans and which ones are androids, but this takes it to a whole nother level.
Bernard didn't even know he was an android there for a long time, so yeah.
This is true. So yeah,
well, none of them really. None of them did. They all thought they were just living their regular old lives in Westworld. So.
Mm-hmm. And some of them still think that.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Craziness.
So that's like half of the episode. The other half of the episode, we
haven't discussed what's going on with Man in Black yet.
Yeah, so the other half of the episode, we've got Man in Black,
Current William
riding into town, I don't remember what the town's called.
Right, but with his
Los
friends.
Mudas, I think, is that it?
Yeah.
And then he's got Lawrence, or is his guy named Lawrence?
Yeah.
Yeah, Lawrence. Which they get captured.
Right, the people that the rest of the Confederados, I believe, that Teddy let go, end up here as well.
Right, so they take
taking everybody hostage.
Take him hostage. Lawrence confides in William about the graveyard stash of weapons, which then William immediately turns around and tells like the general or whatever, the colonel or whatever, and I don't know if it's probably to get the guns closer to them, because obviously if they were to run, they wouldn't be able to get to them. So it's to, I think he just uses the information.
Right, it's hard to see what he's doing. You don't always know his motivations.
Right, I think he still needs Lawrence, but he just seems like he's becoming more and more like his father-in-law, to be honest with you. I feel like.
Well, I mean, when he was young, he fell in love with Dolores and did all the, tried to do well. And then we do see him middle-aged, and he's saying, telling her you're less than a thing, and
right.
And he definitely went to this hard other side,
chaotic evil.
Yeah. And he wanted everything here to be real and have real consequences, but he also still realizes that Ford just changed the game. All of these androids are pretty much still running under just a different story that's been programmed to them. And he's trying to figure out what that is.
Right.
And I'm not going to go into detail about all the different little things that happen with the Nitro and how he ends up saving Lawrence in the long run. But Lawrence's daughter comes up to him.
Right.
Creepy little girl.
Right.
And
Children of the Corn type of creepy.
Well, yeah, because it's kind of a
it's very out of character conversation that she has.
Well, and they all have like accents there. They're speaking Spanish or something.
Right.
She comes up to him, no accent, just deadpan English.
Yep. Deadpan English.
No, I mean her face is just dead.
Yeah.
Is
deer in headlights, like
right. And she talked to him before about the maze, I believe, and how this game is not for him. And she comes up to him, kind of just almost like a story aside, and says something. I don't remember the first part of her speech, but the clue that she kind of gives me a clue. If you're looking forward, you're looking in the wrong direction.
Yeah, if you're looking forward.
That's what I said.
Oh, okay.
What do you think I said?
I thought you said if you're looking forward.
No, well, forward. If you're looking ahead, you're looking in the wrong direction.
You're going in the wrong direction. Yeah.
So, Obviously, this is another clue given by Ford.
Which, again, the game is not for him, so why is he getting clues?
I don't know. It's so bizarre. There's just still so many questions. I love it, though, because it gets you really thinking. I'm wondering if it doesn't have something to do with, looking maybe back at the park's history, or looking back to who he used to be, or maybe not necessarily looking directionally forward, but
right,
looking back to who he was, or who because it was originally started with Ford and Bernard Arnold, really. And got up and running, but I guess they needed just more capital to really grow it, which is where Delos stepped in. So yeah, I don't know. There's just so much.
We didn't even talk about how Dolores is not going by Dolores anymore. She's
going by Wyatt.
She's going by Wyatt, which is completely.
Why?
Why wouldn't she go by Dolores?
Wyatt was another character that was written. If you remember last season, they talked about Wyatt.
No, I know where Wyatt comes from, but I'm just curious why she wouldn't go like, why is she all of a sudden switching gears?
I mean, don't know that she's totally awake. I think it's a program that's been written to her. I mean, she's been possible. Programmed to play the part of Wyatt.
Yeah, that's possible. And she's kind of jumping, kind of like what Bernard, Abernathy is jumping back and forth or whatever. But and
she thinks she's awake, or she's been written to think she was. We saw it with Maeve. We saw her get on the train to go to leave, and then she turned around to go to find her daughter. And
it was not really her daughter,
right? But we thought she was on her own path and totally awake. But then I think it cut to a scene of like her control pad. And it was written out that she was going to do those things.
Right.
So you don't really know if they're acting as if they're totally awake.
And that's
that's part of the story that's given to them.
And that's kind of that might also lead one to believe that maybe there's boundaries that Ford has set. So you got like the physical boundaries, like that, like with the line and the laser beam or whatever, where hey, this is a pylon, the animals cannot cross it, but clearly they're crossing it. So maybe he's writing like, hey, if they ever try to leave the park or whatever, or leave a certain circumference of the area, maybe they just, oh my God, I need to go save my daughter, or some type of story connection that turns them around and heads like a very narrative driven, not as like, not as much as a wall, but more of like an invisible type of wall.
Yeah, it really makes you stop to think about, okay, so how much of this really is all done by Ford and the direction he's been given to these people, and how much of it is it actually that
the AI taking over?
Right.
Yeah.
You don't know.
Stupid show. God.
I know it's infuriating, but it's awesome at the same time.
I hope this series doesn't end like Lost.
Really?
I really hope it doesn't. I foresee it doing that because it's so thought provoking, and it's like you can't make everybody happy, and it's just gonna be like, oh, this is Abernathy's dream, and he's just gonna wake up and he's gonna have the fly in his face, and
oh jeez,
go all the way back to the beginning. So, anyway, so that was Westworld. Holy smokes, we are caught up on Westworld. All right, Fear of the Walking Dead. Let's burn through this real quick. So the last episode, the season 4, episode 4, Buried was the name of the episode. We see Laura, which is what's her real name? Not Laura. Naomi. And Alicia. Trying to scavenge in a water park.
Mm-hmm. Actually, they're all giving backstories. Like how it starts, they're all giving. They had told the video Althea that they would give the story. So each of them in turn is giving the story of a particular day. Right. That they think was kind of the turning point, what made everything go south.
So Alicia and
Alicia's story is about her and Naomi going to this water park.
Right. So it's what, 3 stories? Alicia, Strand, and
Lucy.
Lucy. And basically the gist of all three stories is each one of us had an opportunity to leave the baseball diamond and go our separate ways, and we chose not to. And because we chose not to, because we chose to stay at the baseball field and, fortify it, that was the downfall of something terrible, which we are only can assume that it's the death of Madison.
That's our assumption.
They're doing a damn good job of making us assume that. I'm guessing that because they're pushing so hard for that narrative to be true, it's probably not true.
Right.
She's probably just captive somewhere.
Yeah,
which
there's
would make
some reason why that because really the vultures aren't, other than going and stealing their supplies ahead of time.
They don't seem like the capture people type.
They don't, but
it's the first time for everything.
I don't know what they would have done to make them hate them so much.
Besides take her,
right? But they clearly have this enormous hatred,
right,
for the vultures, so much that that Nick would have gone and killed them the last episode, or the last episode.
Right. Well, even the three survivors, Strand, Lucy, and Alicia, they all,
right,
like the sign of even the sheer view of the numbers, they just go into this auto kill mode, like, oh my god, you must be one of them, you must die. It's like, whoa.
Right. Yeah.
Like
so something has clearly transpired between them and the vultures that.
Right. So essentially, Alicia and God, I can't remember her name. Naomi. They search out this thing, and Naomi basically tries to leave or whatever, and Alicia talks her into staying, and they have a conversation like, oh well, all good things come to an end. We need to leave the baseball field. It's going to fall. Blah 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 blah. That's pretty much their story, right? I mean, they hit.
Yeah. Well, that's what Naomi says to tell Madison, but then she ends up coming back anyhow, and says, okay, well, I'll make an infirmary.
Yep. So she's like, you know what? We are going to stay, and we're going to build it up.
And Alicia's like, I should have told Mom that we needed to leave.
Yep. And then you've got Strand's story where he and another, I don't remember, is it Nick?
No, it's the other guy.
Cole.
Yeah.
Cole. They're scavenging, and Cole's trying to open up to Strand, and Strand's kind of like, well, I'm going to show you who I really am. And he takes him to this junkyard-looking place or whatever, and says, hey, he opens up this trunk of a car, or trunk of this SUV, and says, there's enough food in here for one person for months. Let's just go. And Cole's like, no, I can't do that.
I can't believe you would even suggest it.
Yeah, he's like, clearly his moral compass is set due north, and Strand's like, we're getting the F out of here. And sure enough,
Strand decides to bring all the food back.
Brings all the food back,
which they said, for the number of people they have, would last maybe a day.
Yeah, exactly. So it's very selfish of him, and we've seen Strand pull out his little piece of cement or whatever it is, and kind of remember who he is and who he was, and the transition and all that stuff, and yeah. So he goes back with the food, and then you have Lucy and Nick, who
end up in a library
because Nick still feels bad about what's the little girl's name?
Charlie.
Dang, you are on point tonight. Charlie.
I don't fall asleep during the TV shows.
I fell asleep during.
No, I did fall asleep during Talking. Sorry.
Yeah, I didn't watch last week's Talking Dead, so there's that. Anyway, so he feels bad, and he's like, "Well, we still need things to read, and blah blah blah." And Lucy finds the this atlas or whatever. And she's like, "Let's just pick a place, and you and I will just go. We'll start new or whatever." And she flips it open and points or whatever, and Nick's like, "Oh, we can't do this." And then he convinces her, "Let's go back." And the page that they opened to must have been somewhat nearby, because Nick's like, hey, we haven't scavenged this far. Let's just make one run. It's probably some type of farm. It's got to be something where they can get crops and
quite a bit of different things.
And I'm assuming some type of livestock, possibly.
Maybe.
And bring back. He's like, we only have to make one run and come back, and we can rebuild. So all three stories come together, stating like, hey, there was the let's all leave type of thing, or let's leave individually, and then there was let's build this place up, and all three came back to the diamond to build it up.
And they all said that was the wrong decision to make.
Exactly, that was the wrong decision. So
that
pretty much
the
whole episode,
the gist of that episode.
Which, when you think about it, that was 3 pretty complete stories all in one. Mm-hmm. It was a good episode, though. Kind of shows you
the toilet bowl slide.
Oh yeah,
water park.
Yeah. They did make a really big. Speaking of that, they did make a really big scene about Alicia's new weapon, which was the sleeve of the barrel, the shield on the barrel of that machine gun. Apparently, is this new weapon for her, kind of like Morgan's stick, which is okay, sure.
Yeah.
So I don't know. So that was episode 4. Episode 5 was kind of a little out of sorts. We got a flashback to.
Actually, go back to episode 4. Sorry.
Oh.
The very end.
Yes.
Yeah. This carries
Leads
into
up.
this.
Yeah. Good call. Good call.
So the very end of that, they're talking and they're getting bags out of the truck. Because
I think they're parting ways, aren't they?
They weren't going to part ways. Yes, they're parting ways. She's going to take them on. Althea's going to take the baseball diamond people on their quest to find the rest of these vultures and kill them.
Right.
In exchange for more stories. And John says, well, what about John Dory's like, well, what about me? You were going to try to help me find Laura.
Right.
And she's like, I really need to see how this finishes out. So Morgan's like, well, I'll go with them. And as they're talking, they're getting their bags separated, and he sees this backpack, and he says, where did you get that? And they're like, well, it's from somebody at the baseball diamond. He's like, what was her name? And they said, well, Naomi. And he says, can I take a look at it? And he gets it and he opens it up, and there's his other pistol.
Yep.
And he's like, she never told me her real name.
Yeah, he kind of he goes into this
tizzy. Very emotional, and he goes, well, where is she? And they said, well, some people didn't make it out. And so they're leading us to believe that she is dead. Whether or not they saw her die or they just are assuming that these people are lost, we don't know. But it sounds like Morgan and John are on a path to try to find out if she's alive or dead.
Right.
And so that leads us into this episode.
Which, kind of finishing up that thought, I'm curious as to why they didn't all just go to the baseball diamond. Because that was like the last spotting of Naomi. So wouldn't you want to take John to the last sighting and then just have Morgan track him or track her?
Maybe that's where they're walking.
So they're taking off in the car, like, we'll just walk behind you. We need exercise. Morgan doesn't
they're
have.
Not driving to the baseball.
Oh, they're
stadium.
not.
No, they're going to try to find the vultures.
Oh, I thought they were going to the baseball stadium. Oh, okay, never mind. So they're walking. Okay, so they are going separate ways. Okay, roger that. All right, so last week's episode, called Laura, we got a backstory, huge backstory for John. He's got a nice little kind of setup going on. He's got his little cottage. It's got a waterless moat around it to kind of entrench any oncoming.
Set on the banks of the river so he can fish and have transportation via canoe.
Yep, he's got. I think I saw a windmill is where he's getting electricity from. I don't know how.
Was that what it was?
I'm assuming. I
know he's getting electricity, but I wasn't sure.
I'm assuming that's where it's coming from. He has some type of irrigation system where he's dumping rainwater or some type of fresh water into his storage for
I assume it's rainwater collection is what it looks like to me. But
for his water supply, he's got electricity. I'm assuming coming from the windmill, which I don't know how much electricity those things produce, because he seemed to be using a lot of electricity. TV, VCR, stove, stuff like that every day. So you never know. But
he's there by himself.
He's there by himself.
You can tell he's mechanical too, because he's wired his fish to his alarm clock.
Oh yeah, his like the big bass things that speak or whatever. Now is his alarm clock, which is hilarious.
That was really
so
cute.
he's pretty resourceful. He's got kind of
Just
a
living day to day. He's got a routine.
Yeah, he got a routine. Tuesdays is shopping day, so he canoes up to the local store, and somehow the store is still intact and has not been raided.
It feels very much. I mean, they are kind of near a highway there, but it seems like that's pretty much the only thing there. They're really pretty secluded in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
And you think Texas is a really big state, and there's a lot of like deserty area.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of just like that's kind of the feeling I got. Like
I can picture like those signs that say no gas for 600 miles that way, and people are like, well, we're not going 600 miles to get stuck, so we ain't going that way.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, he goes and rents movies from. Steven fills out the rental movie picture paper on the wall or whatever to rent. He brings the movies back and rents a new one. He's like, but you always go back to your favorites. So clearly he's
only takes what he needs when he goes.
Right, exactly. He doesn't like. There's still food on the shelf, so he's not, in
case somebody else were to come
everything.
Along. But anyway, you don't see a lot of that until after the episode starts.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm joking. I just like that he has his own slice of almost like paradise amongst the dead.
Although clearly he's lonely. He's playing Scrabble by himself, and you see him talking. He's just talking out like random, like platypus. Like he's just saying random words, like trying to come up with worms for his Scrabble.
Right. I think he was trying to figure out what the best word is. Well, I mean, rather than just sitting there staring at the board, he's like, well, I'm just gonna.
Yeah.
He's a smart dude. He doesn't seem smart when we first meet him, but
he's just that slow talking kind of,
country hick.
Right. And yeah, you underestimate him, I think.
Yeah. Cleans his guns twice a day, even though he doesn't use them. Seems kind of odd.
Something to do. You're by yourself.
Yeah, you gotta do something.
How long? I mean, but needless to say, he's going about his normal little life there, and he hears the splashing of somebody in the water, which typically in his world is a zombie, and he goes out, takes his hatchet, and does him in. He goes out there, and there's a body in hanging halfway out of the boat, I think, and raps on it, and it's not a walker, so he carries her in. Right, he carries her in, cleans her up. She's got a pretty bad cut on her side, and he helps her get it stitched up. And she's not really talking. She's not telling him what happened. She's not telling him her name. She's pretty standoffish and wants to get on out of there. And he's like, no, like, you're in bad shape. You can stay here, rest, get healed up, and then you can go on your way if you want to.
Right.
So time good. We see time going on. He introduces her to shopping at the general store.
Fishing. Teaches her to fish. Teaches her to clean the fish.
She asks to teach. Yeah, she asks to learn how to fish.
Oh yeah, if I need. Oh yeah, the river's here for. I need to be able to use it as a tool or something, some reference or a resource. So.
And we just it's a neat episode. It just really establishes this relationship between these two people, and there's not a lot of action. I mean, there is later on, but most of the episode there's not a lot of action. You see that there's more zombies coming in to the river than usual, and they figure out a way to kind of block those zombies off. First with tying a piece of the roof, that sheet metal, to where the hole is, and then that didn't quite work, so they go back and they move a car in place. We get a lot more backstory. She's very good at bringing out information that in John. And he's just willing to talk anyhow. He's kind of an open book. But we do find out, that he is a former police officer, and that he really is against. According to him, he's against using guns because it attracts more walkers.
Which is smart.
It is smart. However, that's not the full truth, and we do find that out later on. They get into a bit of a bind when they're moving that car in front of on the overpass. And he almost gets macheted,
right?
Because there's a a walker with a machete through him, and it's sticking out from the walker, and he can't really reach close enough to hatchet him. But essentially, he in his former life was trying to attempt to stop a robbery, and the suspect turned around as he was shooting him in the leg to stop him, and he turned around. Sounded like he nicked like the femoral artery, and the guy bled out and died. He said that everyone called him a hero, but he felt horrible that he caused this guy's death. I mean, yeah, he was robbing the place, but he wasn't a violent offender. He shouldn't have. He just feels terrible.
He was trying to put him, incapacitate him without murdering him.
And so he just feels that guns are really bad. We also do get more backstory on where he learned his sharps. He, besides being a sheriff, or not a sheriff, but a police officer, he worked weekends at like these little kiddie rodeo type places, and did sharpshooting and lassoing and things like that. So that's where he kind of gets those pistols and that sharp shooting skill, which is really pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
So life's going on just hunky-dory. Naomi's healing up and is getting ready to leave. And he's clearly upset about it. He keeps trying to get her to stay, but you can kind of see she kind of edges too.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, well, teach me how to do this. And well, let's do that. And I'll go help you fortify this.
Right. And
you kind of
she's kind of making excuses.
Right. You kind of see like she's kind of wanting to stay a little bit, but she's never really saying she's going to. So cut to in nighttime comes after they've patched up this hole in the overpass, and you see zombies pushing the car, and instead of having the zombies trickle over like they've been doing,
just a mass flood.
Right. They break through that barrier, and we just end up with a ton of zombies coming. Again, I'm not sure where they came from, especially if they are kind of out in the middle of the desert.
Right. There seem to be a lot of zombies, like all at once.
Like at least 20.
Oh yeah.
If not more.
Yeah, definitely.
But needless to say, they're still not using guns there, and the moat that he's built, the trench that I guess more of a trench, but there's no water in it. The trench that he's built around the house is getting filled, and zombies are starting to like walk across it.
Right.
And since they're fighting close hand-to-hand combat, Naomi like falls in. Pretty cool battle scene.
She calls for help, and
yeah, he brings out the pistols. I don't know where he got them because they were in a box. Like it had to have been some decent amount of time to go get them out of the box and put them together. But he does. He brings out the pistols and just pops them all like super fast.
And
saving her life, and he admits that he doesn't want her to leave because he loves her, and they kiss, and it's lovely, and the cat's opening the Xbox.
Sammy, oh God. Oh God.
Anyhow, you see him wake up, and he's in his bed, which she's been sleeping in, and she's gone. She wrote a little Scrabble note. I love you too. I'm sorry. So we really didn't get much backstory on Naomi.
I wonder if we will.
Because they never really opened up about. We know she's a nurse, which we knew that last episode too. But yeah, she never told John really anything about herself.
I wonder. I'd be curious if they before they reveal if she's dead or not, if they reveal her backstory.
I hope so.
Because there's got to be something traumatic that happens to her.
Why she wants to keep running.
Right, exactly. And
I think she did say something to him when he fell asleep while they were watching the movie.
Something about a kid.
I lost a child, I think is what she said.
Right. Now, we don't know if that was before the zombie apocalypse or after the zombie apocalypse, if it was her child or if it was somebody that was
she was caring for as a nurse. I didn't think about that aspect.
Right, we don't know anything about it. But the one thing that kind of stands out in this one episode is when when they're talking about going to the store, or I don't know. He offers her a pair of boots, and he says, there's snakes out there. You want to make sure you're safe. And she's like, no, I'm fine. I'm going to wear these. And he's like, no, I insist you should probably wear these. It's dangerous out there. She's like, no, I want to be able to run if I have to. Like, so clearly, like, her top priority is escape. Like, if
she's a fight or flight kind of, yeah.
Exactly. Which he kind of pulled her a little bit away from that, and that final fight scene where the zombies, started overtaking or whatever. She could have easily just ran, but she stayed and risked her life and almost died in the process.
Right, and clearly she's got issues with getting close to anybody, and we've seen it with Alicia and them at the Diamond. She tries to leave multiple times and take the keys, and she sneaks the keys out and is vanished and is trying to drive away, and she's constantly just trying to leave. So I really would like some of her backstory. But anyway, it was by the same director that did the Look at the Flowers episode.
Yeah. So you could
Grove.
Yeah. So next week's episode is Just in Case. Strand wrestles with Madison's decisions. Things take an unexpected turn at the stadium. Okay, so we'll at least get some information about the stadium.
All right, what's going on there?
Huh. The wrongs. Okay, we gotta stop reading these.
We
gotta stop reading those.
I already did.
Oh no. Oh my. All right. Anyway. All right, guys. You have anything else you want to talk about?
No.
All right. Sorry about the long podcast. Hour and a half.
Ridiculously long.
Well, that's what happens when you skip 4 episodes. Well, not 4. Skip a podcast and you've got 2 shows that you're talking about. That's 4 episodes. Holy cow.
They're each an hour long. And
4 hours worth of content.
Right.
All right, guys. Well, I appreciate you watching, sticking. If you've stuck through the whole thing, I really do appreciate it. Make sure to head over to our YouTube channel, youtube.com.
Like get up and do like an aerobics that in the middle of it.
Right.
Like, okay, everybody stand up. Now let's do this. Okay, now
we're going to do the zombie walk. Really do appreciate you watching. Make sure you head over to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/72DPI. Get subscribed. Leave us a comment. Kind of curious. Actually, was looking over the video game releases. I want to hear about what games you guys are looking forward to coming up in the next month or so. Leave us a comment below, and we will be back next week.
Actually, a lot of people want to see Mega Man for the Nintendo Switch.
Yeah, there's looks like there's a couple Mega Man
Hyrule Warriors. That would be a Zelda type game, right?
Yeah. That's that looks pretty good. Kind of Smash Brother-esque. So there's a lot of different genres out there. Kind of curious to see what you guys are interested in playing and what you're looking forward to. So yeah, you can catch us back next Wednesday about the same time. We will be going live on twitch.tv/72DPI online, as well as Mixer and Facebook, all that stuff. So yeah, we'll see you guys back here next week. Thanks for watching.
Night.